The drawing didn't stay in the classroom for long. A local newspaper reporter whose nephew was in the school heard about it and called Ms. Carter. At first, she hesitated. She knew what could happen if the story got out. But then she thought of Ava's wide eyes, her innocent explanation, and she couldn't bring herself to hide it. She emailed the reporter a photo. 2 days later, the paper ran a small article on the back page. Second graders' drawing promotes unity. There was a picture of the Crayon children holding hands, and a short quote from Ava. "We're all the same when we play." It might have stayed a forgotten piece of local news, if not for a teacher in another town who saw it online and shared it on social media. The photo spread fast. Strangers reposted it, some with hearts, some with angry comments. Within a week, thousands of people had seen Ava's work. At school, kids pointed and whispered when she walked past. Some gave her high fives. Others sneered, repeating words they had clearly overheard at home. One boy muttered, "My dad says you're brainwashed." Ava didn't understand the word, but she knew it wasn't nice. She ran to Ms. Carter, who hugged her tightly. That night, Jenna's phone buzzed nonstop. Her Facebook inbox was filled with messages, some praising Ava for her pure wisdom, others attacking Jenna for letting her daughter be used. Jenna didn't even know who these people were. She shut her laptop and sat in the dark kitchen, holding her coffee cup, feeling like the world had reached into her home uninvited. The real breaking point came at church the following Sunday. Ava, in her little blue dress, clutched Jenna's hand as they walked into the sanctuary. People smiled politely, but the smiles were too tight. After service, one woman leaned close and whispered, "Your daughter's drawing. It's everywhere. You must be proud." But her tone wasn't kind, it was sharp, accusing, as if Ava had done something wrong. Jenna drove home with her chest aching. Ava hummed in the back seat, swinging her legs, blissfully unaware. Jenna envied her daughter's innocence, but she also feared it wouldn't last. Later that week, a letter arrived from the school board. They wanted Jenna and Ava to attend the monthly meeting where parents had requested to discuss the situation. The word situation made Jenna's stomach turn. Ava was a little girl with a box of crayons, not a politician. But the board wasn't giving them a choice. The night of the meeting, the gymnasium was packed. Folding chairs scraped against the floor. Voices buzzed with tension. Jenna sat in the front row, Ava beside her, clutching the crayon drawing. Parents stepped up to the microphone one by one. Some praised the picture, saying it was exactly what children needed in a divided world. Others accused the school of planting ideas in their kids' heads. One man shouted that second graders had no business talking about race. Jenna's hands shook. She wanted to scoop Ava up and run. But then Ava stood. She climbed onto her chair so the microphone could reach her small mouth. Her voice was soft but clear enough that the gym hushed instantly. "I didn't mean to make anyone mad. I just wanted everyone to be the same. Because when we play at recess, nobody asks what color you are. They just ask if you want to play. That's all I meant." The silence that followed was heavier than the shouting had been. A few parents clapped. Some lowered their heads. Even the ones who disagreed looked unsettled, as though a child's words had held up a mirror too sharp to ignore. News crews had shown up. By the next morning, the clip of Ava speaking had spread online. Reporters began calling Jenna's phone. Emails poured in from organizations, schools, even politicians. Some wanted to honor Ava. Others wanted her as a face for their campaigns. Jenna deleted most of the messages, terrified of her daughter being used as a symbol for battles she didn't understand. But Ava didn't care about any of that. She cared about her crayons. She cared about making sure her stuffed bear wore pajamas at night. She cared about singing too loudly in the car. The world might have seen her as a prophet, but she was still just a little girl who liked to draw. The pressure grew heavier every day. Some neighbors left flowers on Jenna's porch. Others left notes filled with hate, accusing her of teaching Ava to stir up trouble. Jenna stopped answering the door. She stopped going to the grocery store, ordering food online instead. But even then, she couldn't hide from the way people stared when she walked down the street with Ava. One evening, as the sun set, Jenna sat on the porch steps with her daughter. Ava was doodling again, this time with a bright yellow crayon. Jenna watched her, heart aching. "Do you know why people are so upset about your drawing?" Jenna asked softly. Ava shrugged. "Because they don't want to share?" Jenna bit her lip. The answer was so simple, and yet it was the truth. She pulled Ava close, wrapping her arm around her daughter's small shoulders. "Promise me you won't stop drawing no matter what people say." Ava smiled up at her. "I promise." And so the drawing that began as a child's simple vision spread further. Teachers from other states started One Color Day, where students drew people all the same shade. Some communities embraced it, calling it a lesson in equality. Others banned it, accusing schools of pushing an agenda. Ava's name appeared in articles, debates, and online threads filled with arguments she could never understand. But through it all, she kept drawing, and that was how part one of Ava's story unfolded. Not with silence, not with surrender, but with the stubborn crayon strokes of a little girl who refused to let the world stop her from seeing everyone as the same. The weeks that followed blurred into something Jenna could hardly process. What had started as a little girl's drawing had become a storm she couldn't control. One morning, a package arrived on their doorstep. Inside was a children's book written by an author in New York. The note said, "Your daughter inspired me to write this. Thank you for reminding us of what we've forgotten." Another day, a teacher from California sent a video of her students, each holding up their own version of Ava's drawing. They had used different colors for the children's shirts, but the faces were all shaded the same. Ava squealed when Jenna showed her the video. "They're playing my game!" she shouted, clapping her hands. To her, it was no different than sharing a toy with new friends. She didn't understand why her mother's hands trembled as she closed the laptop. Because for every kind message, another arrived filled with venom. Some people accused Jenna of exploiting her daughter. Others accused Ava of being a puppet, a symbol made by adults to push their agenda. Jenna stopped letting Ava near the computer, stopped letting her hear the phone calls. She wanted to keep her daughter's world small, safe, but it was impossible when strangers recognized them in the grocery store and whispered behind their carts. One afternoon, Ms. Carter pulled Jenna aside after school. Her face was pale, eyes heavy with exhaustion. "They've asked me to take the drawing down," she admitted quietly. Jenna's heart sank. "Who did?" "The district board. They said it's distracting, that it's causing division." "But it's a child's drawing," Jenna said, her voice trembling. "Nothing more." Ms. Carter looked away, shame flickering across her face. "I'm sorry. The drawing came off the classroom wall that day." Ava noticed immediately. "Where's my picture?" she asked, frowning. Ms. Carter forced a smile. "I sent it home with your mom, so you can keep it safe." Ava seemed satisfied with the answer, but Jenna wasn't. That night she lay awake staring at the ceiling. She thought of the letters, the comments, the parents shouting at the school meeting. How could people fear something drawn with a blunt crayon? She wanted to scream, to fight back. But she also knew the world rarely listened to single mothers in small towns. And yet, her daughter's voice had already traveled further than anyone could have imagined. The next turning point came when a national television show reached out. They wanted to interview Ava. Jenna hesitated, terrified of thrusting her daughter deeper into the spotlight. But Ava begged. Please, Mommy. I want to show my picture to everyone. Reluctantly, Jenna agreed. The studio lights were blinding. Ava sat in a big chair, feet dangling above the floor. The host leaned forward with a practiced smile. So, Ava, can you tell us about your drawing? Why did you make everyone the same color? Ava swung her legs and answered simply. Because it's easier to be friends when you don't look at what's different. You just look at the smile. The audience erupted in applause. Jenna's throat tightened. She looked at her daughter, so small, so unaware of the weight her words carried, and wondered how long her innocence could last in a world that demanded explanations, labels, sides. The segment went viral. More schools picked up the One Color Day idea. Non-profit organizations began using Ava's drawing in their campaigns. A celebrity even posted about it, calling Ava the voice of a new generation. Jenna wanted to hide under her bed. Ava, meanwhile, just wanted to go back to coloring her stuffed animals' clothes. But not all attention was good. Hate mail arrived more often. Once, when Jenna checked the porch, she found a dead bird lying on top of an envelope that read, "Keep your kid quiet." She shoved it into the trash before Ava could see. That night, Jenna sat in the dark kitchen, clutching a kitchen knife, unable to sleep, terrified of shadows moving outside the window. The town itself became divided. Some neighbors brought pies and flowers praising Ava. Others crossed the street to avoid them. The church congregation grew colder. Ms. Carter confided that some parents had demanded their children be moved out of her classroom. The small town that once felt like a sleepy, safe bubble now felt like a battlefield. And yet, amidst all the ugliness, beauty bloomed. A group of high school students organized a mural downtown, painting Ava's drawing across the side of an old building. Ava stood before it, wide-eyed, her little hands clutching Jenna's fingers. "That's mine," she whispered. They made it big. For the first time in weeks, Jenna saw pure joy light up her daughter's face. For a moment she believed maybe this wasn't all bad. Maybe Ava's drawing could survive the storm. But the backlash continued. News commentators debated Ava on television without ever inviting her. They argued about whether teaching sameness erased identity, whether children should be shielded from conversations about race. Strangers dissected Ava's words as if she were a politician instead of a second grader. Jenna stopped watching. She stopped reading. She wanted to protect her daughter's childhood, even if the world refused to. One night, as Ava lay in bed, she whispered, "Mommy, why are people mad at me? I didn't do anything bad." Jenna sat on the edge of her bed, stroking her hair. "You didn't, baby. You just reminded people of something they forgot. And sometimes the truth makes people uncomfortable." Ava's eyes grew heavy with sleep. "But I just want everyone to play together." "I know," Jenna whispered, kissing her forehead. "That's why your drawing matters." In the weeks that followed, Ava's message spread further. A school in Texas painted a giant banner of her drawing and hung it across their football field. A teacher in Michigan wrote to Jenna, saying the picture had helped stop bullying in her classroom. At the same time, online voices grew louder, uglier, calling Ava everything from a hero to a hoax. It felt like the whole country was fighting over the meaning of a child's crayon. Through it all, Ava kept drawing. She made new pictures, families holding hands, playgrounds full of children, even animals of different kinds sitting together under the same tree. None of them sparked the same fire as the first one, but Jenna kept each picture in a box, knowing they were pieces of her daughter's heart. And then came the invitation that changed everything, a chance to speak at a conference in Washington, D.C., where educators and leaders would gather to discuss equality in schools. They wanted Ava to bring her drawing and share her story. Jenna's stomach clenched when she read the email. It was one thing for her daughter's face to be on television. It was another to stand her in front of the country's leaders. But Ava's eyes shone when she heard, "Washington? Like the place with the big White House? Can we go, Mommy, please?" Jenna hesitated. She thought of the hate mail, the threats, the shadows on her porch. She thought of her daughter's innocence, of how the world had already taken pieces of it away. But she also thought of the people who had written thank you letters, the children who had drawn their own circles of sameness. She thought of the mural downtown, the high school students who believed enough to paint it, and slowly she nodded. "Okay, baby, we'll go." When the day finally came, Ava stood on the stage in front of hundreds of people. The drawing was displayed on a giant screen behind her. Her legs shook, but her voice didn't falter. "I just wanted everyone to play together," she said simply. "That's all." The room erupted in applause, louder than anything Ava had ever heard. Leaders stood clapping, some with tears in their eyes. Jenna held her breath, watching her daughter glow under the lights, small but unbreakable. In that moment she realized something. The world might twist Ava's words, might argue and fight and threaten, but the heart of it, the truth in her daughter's voice, was untouchable, and no one could take that away. After Washington, nothing was the same. The video of Ava speaking at the conference was replayed on television, shared on every social media platform. Journalists called her the girl with the crayon, a phrase that stuck so firmly it felt like a second name. For weeks it seemed the whole country was talking about her drawing, but the attention wasn't something Jenna celebrated. Every morning she woke up to new emails, some full of gratitude, others full of hate. She kept the worst ones hidden, but the weight of them pressed down on her shoulders. At work, colleagues whispered when she passed. At school, Ava's classmates treated her like a celebrity, some with awe, others with jealousy. Ava didn't understand it. To her, life was still about snack time, coloring books, and stuffed animals. One night, as she curled in her bed with her bear, she whispered, "Mommy, why do people care so much about one little picture? I can draw another one tomorrow." Jenna tucked the blanket around her, forcing a smile. Because sometimes one little picture says what grown-ups have been too afraid to say. The weeks rolled into months. Ava's face appeared in magazines, her drawing printed on posters. Some schools across the country made it part of their curriculum. Churches used it in sermons. Activists waved it at rallies. But with every new use, Jenna felt her daughter slipping further into something she hadn't chosen. An idea, a symbol, a spark in a fire too big for a child to understand. And then came the night of the protest. Their town, once sleepy and quiet, had become a stage. Supporters and opponents clashed in the streets, each side holding signs, some with Ava's drawing, others with angry slogans. Police lined the sidewalks. Jenna stayed inside with Ava, holding her close as shouting echoed through the night. When a brick smashed against their mailbox, Jenna screamed. Ava clutched her tightly, her little body trembling. "Why are they mad at us?" she cried. Jenna had no answer. She only held her daughter tighter, rocking her back and forth, whispering, "You didn't do anything wrong. You didn't." The next morning, the protest made national headlines. Reporters called, wanting Ava's response. Jenna slammed the phone down, her heart hammering. "No more," she whispered. "No more interviews. No more cameras. She's just a child." But stopping the wave was impossible. Ava's drawing had grown beyond them, into something alive, something no one could control. One evening, as Jenna sat at the kitchen table, head in her hands, Ava patted over with her box of crayons. "Mommy," she said softly, "maybe they just need another picture." Jenna looked up, tears in her eyes. Baby, I don't think another picture will change them. But Ava shook her head. It will, because pictures don't yell. They just show. She sat down and began to draw. This time it wasn't children. It was a tree. Its trunk was strong and wide, its branches reaching across the page. And on every branch sat something different. Birds, cats, squirrels, even a little girl with braids swinging her legs. Ava shaded them all in the same color but left the leaves bright green, the sky bright blue. She wrote at the bottom in her crooked letters, different but safe in the same tree. Jenna stared at the picture, her throat tight. Somehow it said everything she couldn't. The drawing never went viral like the first one, but Jenna taped it to the refrigerator and swore to herself that one day, when the noise quieted, she would show the world that picture too. The storm raged on for months. There were rallies and debates, arguments and threats. But slowly, like all storms, it began to fade. The news cycle moved on. Strangers stopped calling. The mailbox was free of hate mail. Life settled, not back to what it had been, but into something new, something survivable. Ava returned to being, mostly, just a little girl. She still had moments, people recognizing her at the park, teachers mentioning her drawing, but they no longer defined her. She laughed, played, and drew pictures of rainbows and castles, pictures no one would ever put on the news, and yet the legacy of her crayon remained. Years later, school still celebrated One Color Day. Teachers still showed her drawing to students as a reminder of unity. The mural downtown stayed bright, the colors refreshed every spring by volunteers who remembered. Ava herself grew older, but she never stopped drawing. In middle school, she filled sketchbooks with faces and hands. In high school, she painted canvases full of color and life, but she always kept the original picture, the circle of children holding hands, shaded the same, tucked safely in a frame above her desk. One night, long after she had stopped being in the headlines, Ava asked her mother, "Do you think my picture really changed anything?" Jenna looked at her, at the young girl she had become, and felt tears prick her eyes. "Baby, your picture reminded people of something they needed to hear. Some listened. Some didn't, but it mattered." Ava smiled softly, touching the frame. "I just wanted everyone to play together. And that was the truth of it. Not a movement, not a debate, not a symbol. Just a child's wish scribbled with a dull crayon on cheap paper that somehow touched the heart of a nation." The world moved on, but the circle of children remained, hands linked, faces smiling, all the same. A reminder, fragile yet unshakable, of what could be if people listened with the hearts of children. And in that, Ava's story was never really over. It lived in classrooms, in murals, in the quiet hope of strangers who picked up a crayon and remembered what it meant to be the same.